Hey everyone, I wanted to give you all a look at how good production score is for evaluating prospects for your rookie drafts or for my rookie drafts, and also evaluating just a draft class in general. How much can production alone do for us? I'm going to look at the tight end position specifically today. If you haven't seen the video on what production score is, suggest you check that out because I explain how I made it and where the value is actually coming from. Essentially, it's meant to be a single value to tell you how productive and how predictive their college career was in terms of projecting their fantasy points in their first 3 years. And like I say, we're just going to look at different draft classes today to see how it would have done for each draft class by itself over the last few years, because I think names are just a lot of easier way to put it in context. I tell you, it's got a 17% predictive rate based on the R squared value, and I think everyone understands that. I don't think it's nearly vivid or easy to understand how we can incorporate that into our own decision making process. So just to skip over here, what I've done is I sorted the table by production score. So it's got the highest values to the lowest values always, and then I just limited it to an individual draft class. Right now it's 2010, and then I limited it to just tight ends. So what we're seeing is how it ranked tight ends in an individual draft class just based on production score. Now, to start it off, it's bad, right? Rob Gronkowski doesn't come up as the highest rated quarterback in his class, which he clearly should have. Hernandez, unfortunate history, but probably should have been second. What it is interesting to me, though, is that if you consider draft capital here, Hernandez ranks right next to Gronk, even though he's drafted 2 rounds later. And we want something that can adjust draft capital, and that seems to suggest that it's capable of doing that. But Gronkowski not being here is bad. Garrett Graham being there also bad, and that's context for that 17% number. You can't just take the guy with the highest score. We also have to consider their physical metrics and everything else we like to value. But I think it's interesting that it gives us something else to, so far, to sort draft capital. Dennis Pitta, also probably easy to consider a miss if we were looking at production score alone. Alright, so let's skip over to the 2011 class. Charles Clay comes out at top, which I think is fair. I mean, he's had a fairly productive career. I think it's been limited based on where he's landed, but we've had a top 12 season out of him. Kyle Rudolph comes in 4th. I think this production score clearly did not highlight him well enough, and in fact, yeah, he's got a negative production score. We'd want him to at least have a positive score, right? So Rudolph was a miss. Based on this draft class, we wouldn't have been too far off him because we could have sorted by draft round and then by production score. That would have put us on Lance Kendricks, who had 2 top 24 seasons, I guess. But for tight ends, that's not good enough. Also missed on Jordan Cameron, who was looking like a very good tight end there for a while, until he had career-ending injury. So 2011 was kind of so-so, but with a 17% number, you kind of expect that. Ladarius Green, season-ending injury, career-ending injury, but was shown some potential in the NFL. He came up as a top prospect, and frankly, in 2012, there was no tight end you wanted. Let's look at his actual score just to see if the level of score is helping. So Ladarius Green had a 4.2. That's fairly high. We don't know how his career would have gone. Dwayne Allen, Fleener, I guess the next best tight ends in this class, and they were at least positive. And with their draft capital, maybe it would have put us on them a little bit more. 2013, Ryan Griffin. Okay, I hate this. Yeah, these are the 4 tight ends that you wanted, and they're not coming in at the top of the list, which would be ideal, but then the number will be higher than 17%. Also notice they're going in draft order, interestingly. The fact Reed and Kelsey aren't the highest Like, Tyler Eifert might have been Zach Ertz if he'd been healthy, to be fair. But Reed and Kelsey, you'd ideally at least want them higher. How are this class's production scores doing, though? Okay, a lot of fairly high scores based on the classes that we've seen. So at least would have told us that there are a lot of productive tight ends in this class. And then hopefully, based on everything we know outside of this with Reed, Kelsey, Eifert and Ertz, could have led us in the right direction, but it definitely would have led us wrong. The most interesting thing I note here is that an undrafted free agent I'd never heard of, who eventually became successful with Andrew Luck and still holds value, is being ranked similarly. I don't think there's anything else that could have put me on draft Jack Doyle as an undrafted free agent, to be fair. So I think that's actually positive, next to all those really bad negatives. Okay, I think he got the tight end class in 2014 right. You'd like Eric Ebron to be higher at this point, but remember we had a lot of disappointing years, so ranking a first round tight end under these guys might have made us a little bit more wary of him. I was more wary of him because of the age that he entered into the NFL. 21 was too young. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins is probably the other most interesting name from this class. Fedorowicz might have been, but again, another career-ending injury took him out. Crockett Gilmore was a clear miss. The fact he was productive in college did not matter. So, again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying here's some context for what the 17% number means. I'm still confused by Max Williams. Everything I know of says Max Williams should have at least eventually become a productive tight end. 15, 16, 17, 18. He's definitely missed my 3-year window. So I'm disappointed in that, but frankly no one else in this class was interesting either, which is true of my tight end classes. His production score itself, 6.6. Okay, that's probably one of the highest numbers. He was really productive in college and has completely flamed out in the NFL. I like Hunter Henry coming up as the top ranked tight end. In 2016, that seems to be good. Hooper only being 4th is a problem. But again, if we were taking draft capital, their physical metrics into account, I think we can do better than the 17%. And it's just highlighting that as a 3rd round tight end, he's got a fairly good productive score. I think that would have helped us buy on Hooper this offseason, which I was doing anyway just based on my 3-year rule. But yeah, he had a positive value score. It's all good. Let's go look at 2015, 2017, going forward. Actually, interesting enough, it likes Jonnu Smith the best, and he's in his buying window now. Everyone's given up because he didn't produce in the first couple of years, which he should not have. It ranked Njoku and Ingram obviously too low, but again, draft capital would have put us on there. It would have put us on Njoku over Ingram, which is where I was, which hasn't been the right direction. Ingram was the best tight end in this class for the first 3 years. Doesn't matter what happens next year, Ingram had an astonishingly good first year. So that just puts him above most tight ends. Their raw production values, however, again, over 1%. That's telling us they're a lot better than average. So I think that's positive. Really likes how productive, again, all it's saying is that Smith was really productive in college. I guess that's where what it's coming down to. So, last year's class, who should we be buying? Herndon's the right answer. It likes Mark Andrews, but people like Mark Andrews, and they also like Gesicki, and they also like Ian Thomas. So again, it's getting the right numbers in the top here. It's not getting the order right, pretty much ever, apart from with Hunter Henry maybe. But again, I don't think I would have heard of, I didn't hear of Will Dissly's name before he started scoring points, and the fact he comes towards the top of this list might have at least made us familiar with him. So I think how productive a tight end is in college does matter. I think how productive players are in college matters. This isn't an effective ranking engine, as most of the models I've found that are useful aren't. But it is highlighting who is productive. And then if we take in draft capital, if we take in their tape metrics and their tape evaluation, the combine metrics, I think it can help us. I think it's going to improve my models, more importantly, because tight end models, tight end predictor scores are all a lot lower for single values with decent sample sizes than 17% that I found. Looking at the 2019 class, just to top this video off, it likes Fant best. I've actually started to side with Hockenson, just because I like that he's at an older age. He came into college, he broke out a little later in college, really did dominate. Fant's going to be an amazing athlete. These are the top 2 tight ends in this class, I think. I think I've got Smith third right now. But again, we'll have to see what the draft brings, but at least it's highlighting those same names based on my manual looking at their production. These guys I don't know as much about, but I guess they're now names I'll look at. Same with Norta here. Yeah, and they all have positive values. In fact, what I'd say is it doesn't have the heights, but it has a lot more players with positive value scores in this class than most. So I think that fits with a lot of the things that I've heard about this class as well. So yeah, anyway, hopefully that helps put that 17% number into context. And when you look at the production score that I've just created and compare it to tight ends, at least you'll have a better idea that you don't just run out and get the Max Williams with a 6.6 score. Like, take in other factors, obviously, but it is highlighting who's productive in college, and there is 17% of signal, and that the level of production that they have in college highlights how well they're going to do in their first 3 years. And it's not doing too badly, at least isolating the top names there. The top names are all coming in, the top 7 or so scores. It's just not ranking them correctly. Is probably what I'd say. All right, so let me get out of here. So again, the video can upload in time for, it not being 2020. Thanks for checking out. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.